Okay, good morning. For today, the plan is to take our public hearing, then proceed with our council meeting, committee meetings, and end with our executive sessions. So starting the day is our public hearing, and that would be Councilmember DeCosta.
Does Luke want to introduce the...
This is for the plumbing code.
For the plumbing code, I have it. Okay. I would like to call to order the public hearing for Bill number 2853. Clerk, could you please read the notice of the public hearing?
Notice is hereby given that the Council of the County of Kauai will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 at 8:30 a.m. or soon thereafter in the Council Chambers, 4396 Rice Street in the Historic County Building in Lihue on Bill number 2853, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 14, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the plumbing code. This bill proposes to amend Chapter 14, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended by adopting the Uniform Plumbing Code 2018 edition, along with several amendments contained in the state plumbing code. This bill also proposes no increases in the plumbing permit fee schedule for fixture and system installation.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to provide testimony on this bill? Is there anyone on Zoom wishing to provide testimony on this bill? Not seeing or hearing any additional requests to provide testimony, the public hearing is now adjourned.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the council meeting for Wednesday, April 20th, 2022 to order. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilmember Carvalho.
Here.
Councilmember Chalk.
Here.
Councilmember Cowden.
Here.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Here.
Councilmember Evslin.
Here.
Councilmember Cooley will be here shortly, and Council Chair Kanaho, here he is.
Present.
7 present.
Next up is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
To approve.
Second.
Anyone receive no written testimony? Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the agenda? Anna, your testimony has to be on the items in the agenda. So you know the rules. You have 3 minutes initially. State your name for the record. The light's going to turn green when it starts, yellow when there's 30 seconds, red when your time is up. And if you need another 3 minutes, we'll have to see if anybody else wants to testify first, and then you can come back for your second 3 minutes.
I appreciate it, Council Chair. Thank you for the reminder. It has been a long time, but it is such a pleasure to see all of you in person. I appreciate the work that you all do behind the scenes and also once we get here. My name is Anna Modez, and my testimony is on the approval of the agenda on this specific item of the agenda, and I disapprove of the agenda. I feel it is incomplete for matters of urgency. I submitted a request for an agenda item to be placed on the agenda today. I submitted reasons for it, and I hope that my reasons were read thoroughly. Now, Council Chair, I speak to you with full integrity. I appreciate your position as Council Chair and a man of integrity, a family man. And as parents, we know that what we want for our children, we want for all children. So everything I say here in this moment is with the utmost integrity, the utmost honesty, the utmost truth. I have witnessed myself and feel it is an urgent emergency to discuss the situation in Koloa. I have seen it with my own eyes that there is, in fact, many places of significance worth exploring with the data recovery survey, the second part of a 3-part process of the cultural survey. I understand that the county is responding by saying that the developer has completed all requirements, and with the utmost respect and admiration for the work ethic of Scott. It is just not true. There needs to be a data recovery portion of the cultural survey for there to be any peace with the community, because we have pictures, I have seen it with my own eyes, and we are demanding due process take place. The data recovery portion is significant. It is when a team goes in and explores each space worthy of investigation. We are not saying or claiming that there is anything, but there is a possibility of it. For the response to be that there is absolutely nothing is absurd by logic standards. It is a 26-acre property in Koloa, right next to Hapa Trail. There has been proven and historic significance of all of Koloa. So how could this particular 26-acre lot have absolutely nothing worth exploring a little bit further, investigating to see what can be revealed, what can be maintained in perpetuity? The people of Koloa deserve proper due process, and for the county to support our request in asking for such, in demanding for such, because it is protocol. I understand the developer is saying that whatever gets revealed along the way, they will stop. But that does not mean that they can bypass initial protocol. And initial protocol has most definitely been bypassed. Either Cultural Surveys Hawaii is someone we cannot count on, to be honest, or there are other parties in play to the same effect. I would like there to be a proper investigation. I'm counting on all of you as our representatives to please demand there be a data recovery survey portion of the cultural survey. It is not complete. Anyone saying it is complete is committing fraud. And I am saying this here on the record. I would not be here if I did not know it for certain that we most definitely need a data recovery portion for the 26 acreage in Koloa TMK that I have already submitted, the reasons why I'm requesting this of you. I believe that all of you truly feel this is an important aspect and that your call to duty aligns with my request. I really need to understand that due process takes place and that the county supports the community getting involved in such matters. We wouldn't have to if the initial protocols were already checked. You are our final frontier, so I'm asking for you all to get involved, please. It's a requirement of your position in representing us. We wouldn't come if there wasn't a big reason for it. So please step forward, stand up for what is really, truly happening, and investigate further. Don't take it for granted what Cultural Survey Hawaii has presented. Are there any questions?
I have a process question, Mr. Chair, and maybe
Council Vice Chair Chop.
thank you. No, mahalo for the testimony, and Mr. Chair, I know it's not on the agenda, so I won't go further into it. I just am wanting to get clarity around the actions here that are being requested. So I hear there was a request for an agenda item, and part of what I'm understanding is this kuleana that potentially has oversight over is within the state jurisdiction. I just want to know how far the group has gone in engaging with SHPD and the right organizations that oversee this.
Most definitely have, to no avail. That's why I'm here, speaking on the record of it, asking for you guys to step in representation and make sure that SHPD is acknowledging the request for a true and proper survey, that they don't just take Cultural Survey Hawaii at their word. It's completely untrue. So if we have to go over SHPD, if they continue with this story, then I'm asking for you guys to step in to do that. Maybe the Office of Hawaiian Affairs have to get involved. And there's also 2 points that have never been, and I know I have another 3 minutes afterwards if there is more testimony, so I can bring that up now. I know my
Councilmember
time
Cowden
is
has
up.
a question.
My question is actually for the county attorney.
And I believe, yeah,
Is it okay for me to ask him a question?
Mark is on.
Sure.
Mark, can you give clarity on the council's role? I have followed this issue pretty closely or relatively closely for about a year. And how do we step in, or what can we do? What is appropriate in terms of putting it on the agenda, or how do we have a role? Because it is very clear that when we have this piece of property directly across the street from what is visibly an active part of the Kaloa field system, and this was an active part of the Kaloa field system, and they say, oh, there's nothing here. I'm told it's not the council's role to step in on that. What is the council's role? And is it appropriate? What's the appropriate way to put it on the agenda?
Well, I'm not completely familiar with this piece of property that the young lady was discussing. However, at some point in time, if there was permits to be pulled, it should have probably come before the council. If it hasn't, obviously the council can direct the planning director to come before the council and explain it and open it up to public testimony then.
Okay. Thank you. I'll work on that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? If not, thank you. Next up is Allison.
Is it on?
Yep.
Right here. Aloha. Yeah, I'm here for the same reason that what I'm here to testify about is the actual agenda itself. So I'm backing up Anna, which is that I think that the county council, she indicated in her email to you that this was of time urgency and that this issue did need to be included in today's agenda as something to address, and begging the county for their immediate action and help in any way possible, county council, in stopping what's going on in Koloa, which is being done with a whole lot of layers of irresponsibility. For example, yesterday, or was it the day before? I think it was yesterday, a bulldozer just basically went through a heiau, and the cultural practitioners that have been opposing all of this development have worked through all the proper channels through SHPD, begging DLNR, begging SHPD, begging the county, even talking to KPD, who is there moonlighting, hired by the developer to keep people away. So it's a critical, urgent, time-sensitive issue, and so that's what I am testifying about right now, is that it should have been on the agenda today, the ability to ask you guys to do whatever you can to help stop the desecration. There's a significant population of Kauai that is being harmed by the development, and they're not being listened to. So, thank you. That's all.
I know you have your last 3 minutes.
I appreciate it, Council Chair. Thank you so much, Anna Motez. This is very true what Allison just said. A bulldozer went through the heiau, the large heiau that we have pictures of. So again, comes the question, if there's nothing on the property worth a data recovery survey, why is the developer taking these steps to ensure destruction? It's confusing, to say the least, and to be the most respectful, because I do respect all of you. I respect these chambers, and I respect the work that happens here. I believe in it, and that is why I'm here. I'm asking you please to step forward and do what is appropriate, do what ought to be done, full force to stop the machine, all of the machines on the property until there is a proper data recovery survey. Two questions that I had that were very unclear on protocol. The police officers, which I back the blue 100% police officers on duty, and I appreciate the KPD for all their work. There's officers in full uniform with their gear and weapons and everything, making it seem like if they're on duty. My question is, later we find out they are moonlighting as security. The police officer told me it was in protection for the employees from us and to protect us from any machinery. I don't understand the protocol here. How is it that, is it KPD, is this a centralized unit that is providing these moonlighting outside options? And if so, is there an ordinance that we can look at to see how this can be? Of course, you can understand the concern when there's community members showing up, knowing that there has been issues on this property that the developer or those supporting the developer have not ensured proper protocol took place, and we're just there to observe and record. And yesterday, one of the women that have been consistently showing up was told that if she does again, she will be arrested for trespassing, when we were initially told that we were allowed to be there and observe peacefully, which it has all been completely peaceful. So that was one question. Also, Hapa Trail, within the 30-foot barrier, this is a state highway, right to wander. There should not be any obstruction on Hapa Trail. There should not be any sort of digging or anything. So I don't understand who owns this property, if it's private, if it's state, if it's county, and the permit situation, the developer says that they own it and they don't need to provide a permit. It's all very confusing. Thank you so much.
Okay,
I appreciate the time.
Thank you for your testimony. Call the meeting back to order. Any questions from the members? Councilmember Cowden.
Can I have just an understanding of why we didn't put anything on the agenda? Did we get an agenda request on time?
I never received an agenda request. Did you request an agenda item?
I'm seeing, I didn't. I just did a search and I had read this, but it was April 14th. I'm not sure about the timing on that. I see an urgent request for briefing on agenda dated April 14th from Anna Modez. Regarding this, I'm seeing that this was there on that date. Was that date a problematic date? Is that why it didn't make it on the agenda? Maybe that was too late?
The agenda was already posted by that
Okay.
on that day. And
Yeah.
I still haven't received any agenda requests.
It's in our email. It's on April 14th is the request. Not from me, but it looks like from her.
Requests usually come from a council member.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So just so they understand in the room, Thursday the 14th, the agenda's already set.
I was also requesting council members to step forward and meet with council chair to request the agenda time. From what I understood, that was protocol when I had come to ask. So that was my intention in sending to council members at kauai.gov to ask our council members to step forward and make time with council chair. So I continue to ask that of each and every one of you. Thank you. But time is of the essence, so please make the phone calls to OHA SHPD. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the meeting back to order. Any questions or discussion on approval of the agenda? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, Motion carried. Next item.
Chair, next item are the minutes of the following meeting of the council, the April 6, 2022 council meeting, and the April 6, 2022 public hearing regarding bill number 2850.
Move to approve.
Second.
Received no written testimony, and anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the minutes? Seeing none. Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify on this matter? See none. Seeing none, any questions or discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Chair, next item are items on the consent calendar for receipt, C 2022-78 and 79.
Move to receive.
Okay.
Received no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none. Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none. Any questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item are communications, C 2022-80, communication from Kauai, Clerk of the Planning Commission, transmitting the Planning Commission's recommendation to amend Chapter 8, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to all hazard statewide outdoor warning siren systems.
Move to receive.
Second.
Received no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none, any questions or discussion from the members? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
On page 2, C 2022-81, communication from Kauai, Clerk of the Planning Commission, transmitting the Planning Commission's recommendation to amend Chapter 8, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to commercial general zoning district table of uses.
Move to receive.
Second.
Received no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Seeing none, any questions or discussion on this item? Not, all those in favor of receipt signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is C 2022-82, communication from the Executive on Aging requesting council approval to receive and expend state funds in the amount of $53,543 and to indemnify the State Executive Office on Aging to be used by the County of Kauai Agency on Elderly Affairs to support the functions of the Aging and Disability Resource Center and be used for staff development, outreach, awareness, education, and collaboration with the No Wrong Door Network for the period June 1st, 2020 through May 31st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Received no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? If not, any questions from the members on this item? Any discussion? All those, Councilmember Cowden?
I just want to again thank Elderly Affairs for their diligent work at getting grants and continuing the great work that they do for both this one and the Kupuna Care piece that comes next. You guys have been so good at getting everything done and taking care of our seniors, so just mahalo. Don't want to let that opportunity pass.
Anyone else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is C 2022-83, communication from the Executive on Aging requesting council approval to receive and expend state funds in the amount of $183,554 to indemnify the State Executive Office on Aging to be used for the provision of kupuna care, which includes case management, adult daycare, assisted transportation, attendant care, kupuna care transportation, personal care, and home delivered meals for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? If not, any questions or discussion from the members? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
C 2022-84, communication from the Director of Finance requesting council approval to receive and expend funds in the amount of $50,000 from the State of Hawaii Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs and indemnification provisions contained in the High Wi-Fi Program Memorandum of Understanding to upgrade or install Wi-Fi connectivity at various parks or other public locations within the county for the purpose of increasing access to internet and broadband services.
Move to approve.
Receive no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Questions from the members? I'll suspend the rules. Councilmember Evslin.
Yeah, for Reiko or Dell, I'm just wondering, one, sounds like a great program, fully supportive, but the memo mentions program locations, but it doesn't specifically say what those locations are. Do you have that information yet?
I'm going to defer to Dell.
Yeah, we've got a list of park locations. This is Dell Sherman, IT manager for County of Kauai, for the record. We're targeting 7 locations of parks. If you give me just a second, I will pull up the info I had. So Vidina, Lidgate, Kilauea Park, Eisenberg, Waimea Athletic, and a couple locations in Hanapepe and Kekaha initially. We'll expand from there if we can, but the agreement with the state on this was we would try to outfit at least 7 locations. So those were the primary ones that we'd selected that would be reachable with existing infrastructure.
Great. And this will be 24/7 public Wi-Fi at these locations then?
That's correct.
Great. Thank you.
Follow up, Council Vice Chair Chalk, and then Councilmember Cowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Del. I mean, this is great. I'm completely supportive, and I appreciate it. I just noticed that, and there is a big gap, Wainiha area for connectivity. Has there been any discussion about a location there that we might be able to support in the future or along with this?
Yeah, we've been in discussions with the state and internally in how far we can expand. The issue here is we're limited with being able to go as far as we would like, in that we don't have fiber optic connectivity to some of these desired locations. And that fiber optic backhaul is needed to give us the kinds of Wi-Fi broadband internet speeds that make these locations functional for our residents. So we're trying to extend our fiber optic network coverage as well. We're moving forward with that under a separate project. And as that expands, then some of these more out-of-the-way locations might become reachable, perhaps with some kind of a point-to-point radio system. So absolutely, we want to take those into consideration as soon as they become reachable with our network infrastructure.
Thank you. Councilmember Cowden, then Councilmember DeCosta.
Thank you. So this is basically, a router being placed in different parks to be able to offer public access to internet. Many people, particularly vulnerable people, have a hard time finding internet access. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're what would be referred to as a Wi-Fi access point. And it would be a commercial grade of access point to withstand the harsh conditions that exist in these locations. And each location requires more than one, so there'd be multiple little electronic boxes and their associated antennas that would be required to be deployed.
And what's the frequency that will be used on these equipment? Do you know offhand?
As far as the
hertz?
Yeah, so these will support the old 2.4, and they'll also support Wi-Fi 6 and newer standards, 5 gigahertz.
Oh, it does have 5 gigahertz.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to piggyback on what Vice Chair Chalk said about Hyde, but my location would be Waimea Valley. We kind of forget about Waimea Valley with the internet. I did the math real quickly on the 7, you said 7 possible locations that we were gonna put the router. You mentioned 3 to 4 in the Lihue East area. You mentioned 1 at Waimea Park, so that gives us 5 areas. You said a couple in Hanapepe, couple to me is 2, so that's 7. Then you mentioned 1 in Kikaha. So if you're gonna do 7, I think one of those spots gonna have to go. So I think Kikaha and Waimea Valley and Haena should be a priority focus. I'm not sure if we gotta lobby some money to get that fiber optic line out there, but it's important because I think a lot of the kids sometimes with the weather conditions cannot get out to school and they need that Wi-Fi to do the curriculum.
Yeah, we're happy to entertain any suggestions when it comes to locations we can add. Anyone who's so inclined, feel free to throw those our way, and we'll analyze whether they're reachable or not with our infrastructure. If not, we're happy to invest some time in looking into what it would take to get out there with the network connectivity that would be required. And our locations being targeted, we agreed that if we accept these funds from the state, that we would do at least 7. Nothing prevents us from adding some if we can reach them. I think with the funding the state is providing, there's enough there where we could add some additional pieces of equipment and not exceed our budget. So always open to suggestions, and I think this is really important. Happy to kind of pool our thought processes on this and where we think these would be best suited and move forward accordingly.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kuali'i.
Yeah, from the top, when you're talking about the 7 locations.
Mine's a follow-up.
Do you have a plan to do all of the county parks and facilities, public facilities?
At present, not all of the parks would be reachable. We do plan to add Wi-Fi to any one of them that would be within reach of our fiber. So in some cases, what that means is we would have to shoot a point-to-point radio from a fiber node maybe over to a park. And the distance may be as much as a mile. Beyond that, we would have to look at other alternatives to getting connectivity to that park. Does that answer your question?
Sort of. I mean, so for the ones that are not reachable, you said we would have to look into other options. And obviously that would cost probably a lot more money. But right now, there are a lot of federal dollars out there, infrastructure dollars, and they'll probably be available for a few years to come. And I know that they're making a priority of connectivity, especially for outlying rural areas, disadvantaged areas. So I'm just wondering if we have a plan to take advantage of that and make the sky the limit, if, even to try and reach those hard to reach areas, because it's probably the areas that need it the most, potentially.
Yeah, agreed. And if I can comment on that, I know some of the infrastructure vendors, such as Spectrum, Hawaiian Telecom, are taking advantage of some of those funds to extend their fiber to some of these presently unserved locations. And I think as these companies extend their fiber, we can leverage their infrastructure perhaps to add more public Wi-Fi along their routes. We'll see where it goes. I've tapped into all of the funding that I'm aware of, but if anything else becomes available, this is something that really has my interest and clearly support of you and others in the county. So we would be totally open to going as far as we can with this.
Yeah, I'll just tell you that so several of us have been participating with the National Association of Counties, and I'll get some information on funding and send that on to you. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Councilmember Cowden?
Yes, I just, look, this amount here is $50,000, which isn't a lot of money. So that's a little bit of hardware pieces for these routers. I just want to call attention to, like in Wainiha, a lot of times you can't even use your cell phone, right? They don't have the towers. So the convenience of just adding, a signal out there is incredibly costly and significant. It's not just putting the small box. Is that accurate with your understanding, Del?
To deliver cellular service to these locations is a whole nother ballgame, but the one thing that this does open up, when we can reach some of these limited cellular coverage areas with Wi-Fi, generally all of the new smartphones have the ability to make phone calls over Wi-Fi. So being that these networks are public, someone can connect up to our county Wi-Fi now and make calls with their phone over the Wi-Fi network. So it opens up phone coverage a little bit, but we're mostly concerned about data, and especially for families that don't have internet or students perhaps that need internet for schooling and don't have any means to access that from their homes. So we've been cooperating with the college and others in making them aware of these locations so that they can get to them. Cellular service, that would be a whole other discussion.
Okay. So is there an inquiry into the environmental hazards or the health hazards? When it's 5 gigahertz, just asking, I'm not sure if that hits what's considered the term of art 5G or not. Is it 5G? Is it not 5G?
No, it's not 5G.
Okay.
And there have been a lot of studies done on that. It's an interesting thing to look into. There's opinions on both sides of that equation, but we wouldn't even be getting into that at all. So it's a non-issue in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. I just really wanted to clarify that because there's a lot of concerns on that. And then I know at the National Association of Counties meeting in Las Vegas 2 years ago on this broadband, it was an overfull crowd. And in that overfull crowd in that room was concern about not, visiting 5G everywhere or anywhere. And so much so that it went on the priority list to allow counties the choice and to not, bring that top down. It was a very big issue to allow counties their own health choices. And, it is complicated, but I want people to hear that might be listening that this is not 5G. And so this is simply, what we're mostly used to for internet access. And I think that that's important for people to hear and understand. So is that in alignment with your awareness as well, Del?
Yes, we're in total agreement on that. This is not 5G, even though they both have the number 5 in them. 5G actually runs in the 24 gigahertz up to 54 gigahertz range. We're in the bandwidth just that overlaps with consumer Wi-Fi, the same thing that people have had in their homes for decades. We have no plans as a county to do any kind of 5G system deployment. Yeah, this is not that, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. It's just important that people aren't afraid to go to the parks and that they understand this is just people can go, and it really helps, particularly disadvantaged people. Often we have people who don't have access to internet, so they can go to the park and actually sign up for programs or other things of that nature. And lots of funerals and things like that do happen at the park, and a lot of times I've seen they try and Zoom broadcast in these past couple of years. So I'm supportive of these choices. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Yeah, just wanted to
Thank you all.
To say how totally supportive I am of broadband and of course Wi-Fi for our whole island, all parts of our island. And to pick up where Councilmember Cooley, going to the NACO conference, there was major discussion on broadband and opportunities for funding. There's really connecting there that has already happened. So I really want to take that to that next level if possible, because to me, the sooner the better for people, especially going through what we've gone through for our island in the past. We got to get this connectivity happening sooner than later. So I think we had this discussion in the budget sessions or hearings, but just wanted to bring that up and see how important it is for us to get there sooner than later. And I know there's resources available, and we can connect that, and I feel strongly about that. So thank you for taking it to the next level.
Any further questions from the members? If not, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any final discussion? Yeah, I'll just say it's a great thing. I support it, but Del, maybe check with our DC consultants. They have a great plug-in with our legislators. We've been through a bunch of presentations at NACO and with our individual legislators where the federal has a big push for broadband connectivity. So, and I know our DC consultants have a great working relationship with our legislators, and they can probably put some type of package together specific for whatever our needs are, and try and get some of that federal money. So, just putting that out there. Any further discussion from the members? If not, Councilmember Di Costa.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say how important it is for when we go on those conferences like we just did with, our group and get akamai about the funding that's available to the government. So thank you for Errol and Cooley for mentioning that.
Anyone else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carried. Next item.
On page 3, legal documents, C 2022-85, communication from the acting county engineer recommending council approval of a property adjustment agreement with William Hyde Rice Limited and Cumberland and Western Resources LLC respectively for the Kiku Bridge Rehabilitation Project to repair Kiku Bridge, install new guardrails, and resurface the asphalt pavement on the bridge and bridge approaches to the property situated at TMK numbers 31002-001 and 433-018-002 in Lihue. This is a property adjustment agreement.
We have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions from the members on this item? I'll suspend the rules. Council Vice Chair Cha.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to hear more about this particular TMK and the jurisdiction that it falls under.
Good morning, Chair, members of council. My name is Michael Mole again, or not again this time, but with the Engineering Division, Public Works. So the situation here is that Kipu Bridge on Kipu Road over Hula'ia Stream is a county bridge, has been for a long time. It's a federal aid bridge that we inspect every 2 years. And the right-of-way, the road right-of-way for Kipu Road is on easements through private parcels. The county owns and maintains the portion of Kipu Road to the bridge. After the bridge, it's actually considered a road in limbo. We have a council response that discusses that road, amongst others, that I understand is currently in legal review, talking about roads in limbo, and you'll find out more about that piece of Kipu Road past the bridge. But because the bridge is on, the bridge and the adjacent road is on easements, there's actually two different parcels that we're asking. There's property adjustment agreements for two parcels that we've sent to you. I think one on each side of the bridge, or actually say each side of the river, the stream. And we're getting the property adjustment agreement because we'll be working on their property, mostly within our easement, but potentially, especially on the other side of the bridge, off of the easement a little bit in order to do the work. That includes on the, I guess it'd be the north side of the bridge, the near side if you're coming from the highway. There's a laydown area, I believe, on that side that is shown on one of the maps. It's with the property adjustment agreements. And that's just an area off to the side of the road fully on private property for us to have our contractor stage their equipment and materials so they can do the work. But these are very large agricultural parcels, and we're just trying to get easements over to do the work to repair the bridge. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Yeah, hi, Mike. I wanted to know, Mike, this Kipu Bridge, is that the one right past the Kipu, the old Kipu Falls parking area where they would go to the waterfall? Is that the bridge?
Yes.
So
yes, it's that bridge.
Okay. So you informed us that that bridge is on our county road, but the road passing the bridge is a road in limbo, and then that road in limbo, where does it lead? Does it lead to a public place? Does it lead only privately into the Rice Estate? Could you educate us on where does that road lead right past the bridge?
Yep. So again, like, as I mentioned, the road is considered a county road to the bridge and on the bridge. On the other side of the bridge, there's about another half a mile or so of paved, might be a stretch. It used to be paved. It's got some pretty big potholes now. It leads to several private parcels, some of which are owned by Rice, some of which are owned by Grove Farm, I believe, still, and there's other landowners. There is the Kipu ATV tours and the Kipu zipline tours that are there at the end of the road. Also of note, this is the road that, amongst other roads through other private parcels, that would access the Kipukai land on the other side of the mountain range, that is currently privately owned, but I think most people are aware is supposed to be turned over to the state as state land after certain heirs pass on, as I understand it.
No, I just want to make sure that when we do spend our funding like that, we're not just, if this is a public area where public can drive and go visit and stuff, that's great. But if it's not, then we're entertaining, specific landowners. You mentioned Kipu ATV, Kipu Zipline, but that's still companies that operate on a private piece of property, So I just wanted to make sure our funding was being well spent and it benefits the public.
There's homes back there.
Again, where are the homes? Does it sit on the rice land, or is it private landowners of those homes? That's what I want to find out.
Probably a mix.
Can you get us the information, Mike? Those homes that are there on the rice property lands, or is that like private landowners who own small parcels of land that's kind of landlocked within the rice estate?
Yeah, give me 1 second here.
You can get that back.
I can actually tell you how many homes there are accessed by that road. Just give me a second. I have a spreadsheet that we counted those. Yeah, there are 11 dwelling units listed on the parcels that are there. They are, generally speaking, within the large parcels of land that are back there, but it's multiple parcels. It's not just a single parcel of land where those homes are, I believe. Also of note, I think that although it is a road in limbo past there, we understand that the easement over the land up until you get to the end of the paved road, where it kind of splits off into separate smaller driveways to go to each of the private parcels at the end. That is a public easement. And so that is, people do, can drive to the end or bike or walk to the end of that road as a public access location. In addition to the fact that they access the 11 homes that are on those parcels, as well as the businesses that we just discussed, that are accessed by that road.
And Mike, those 11 homes, are they, again, privately owned by residents throughout Kauai, or is that homes that are owned by the Rice family that are rented, or rented out to, or employed?
I don't have that information.
Yeah. So remember, I spoke to you guys about a road in limbo out in Kauai, and there is a whole bunch of community residents that live back there, and I wanted to make sure that we were being fair when we do work near roads with limbos, where we don't just pick and choose the areas that we work on.
Yep, I understand that, and as I mentioned earlier, we do have a road in limbo report coming to you all. Very delayed due to the amount of research that it took to do it. Being reviewed by the attorney's office right now. That is going to look at all the roads in limbo and prioritize them. The idea is to prioritize them for possible acceptance by the county to take over those roads and start pay for them and start maintaining them. And in this case, this portion is already county owned. The bridge is already county owned, and we think it's important, regardless of whether the county decides to take over the road in limbo in the future, and this road is on the list compared to other roads in limbo. We think it's important that we maintain the existing infrastructure that we do own, so that it's safe for the traveling public, whether it's for the overall public or for even these private landowners and the businesses there. We think it's important that we maintain this bridge, and really this is really a project to fully for repair, right? So that we're fixing spalled concrete, making sure the reinforcement is not exposed to the weather and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cowden.
Now, I want to back up Councilmember DaCosta's questions because I think that they're very important. There are many roads in limbo. There are bridges that need to be fixed. We see problems like at Aliomanu where, you start to wonder on the far end if those houses will even be reachable, although that could be something like a community finance, monetary development fund or whatever, like we saw for Kukui'ula. Isn't this, am I remembering correctly, Michael, that at one point when we had car accidents and things, that road was used as a bypass for somewhat, or does it not go anywhere that could be? Am I remembering the wrong spot? You could never use that for a public purpose, that road in limbo. What was it? Could you go around there? It seems like they've stopped the use of a road back there because the private landowners don't want it utilized. And that's what I see happening with these government roads and limbos allowed to decay. There's many places where they're allowed to decay to privatize areas. What's happening with that there?
Yeah, I'll answer that by sharing my screen, if that's okay, and just
Please,
showing a map of the area so you understand where this bridge is. Okay, if you can see the screen here, this is just a Google Map image of this general area. I'll zoom in as much as I can. So, generally speaking, this is the greater Lihue area. Rice Street here, the county office over here in the upper right-hand corner. This area here is all the shops, the Costco, Kapui Grove, each of the neighborhoods in Puhi. And here, of course, is the harbor down here in Wili Wili. This road here, it's labeled incorrectly in Google, actually, but this road from here to here is called Kipu Road, officially. And then the continuation of what was and still is a bypass is called Hulumalu Road. Follows this alignment here. It connects to Puhi Road here, and you can get into Puhi this way on Puhi Road. Continues this way, connects to Halehaka Road here, where you can go to the Puako subdivision and the Puakea Golf Course, and then continues down past the Menehune Fish Pond overlook and down into Niumalu and ultimately to the Nawili Wili Harbor area in Kalapaki. Kipu Road, as I mentioned, is this first little leg of that bypass is Kipu Road, as it's officially named. But Kipu Road then turns right, and it was never part of the bypass. It would have been presumably access to the tunnel that was used for sugarcane hauling and is currently used for some of the ATV tours, as I understand it, although I've never done that. But I'll zoom in here a little bit. So again, this is the highway, Kipu Road, Hulumalu Road, and then Kipu Road turns to the right, comes down here. Where it crosses the stream here is where the bridge is. So county owns this portion of Kipu Road, owns and maintains it from all the records that we can find. And this piece is what's considered a road in limbo. This last little piece that goes to here. At this intersection here, the pavement ends and the easement ends. And so it's really just this last, I think it's about a half a mile, or maybe only a quarter mile, that's the road in limbo. And the county has and does maintain this portion of Kiku Road and the bridge here. But this bridge was never potentially part of a bypass that could be used to bypass back when before the highway was widened through Pui, or when there's a crash, people cannot use this to get around traffic. It doesn't go anywhere except to these private parcels and the tunnel, of course, which is not open to the public to use as a bypass, and it's not really safe for that purpose.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so I really look forward to this report on all our roads in limbo. I think it's very important for us to be looking at those and holding on to the roads that are valuable for our people. I am respecting what Billy has said, that, you know, we're investing a lot for a small group of people. And so it's just important to see that it isn't, you know, we don't pick winners and losers unfairly. But also get, once these bridges are gone, they're effectively gone. So I appreciate the clarification.
Any further questions from the members? If not, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any final discussion from the members? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is C 2022-86, communication from the Director of Parks and Recreation recommending council approval of a right of entry agreement and associated terms between the County of Kauai and the State of Hawaii Department of Transportation for the Wailua Beach Emergency Project situated at TMK numbers 441-004-001 and 441-005-004 for a public purpose, to wit, the construction, preservation, and protection of the highway project known as the Kuhio Highway Emergency Shoreline Mitigation Federal Aid Project ER 24004 Right of Entry Agreement.
Move to approve.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions? I have a question from Council Vice Chair Chalk. I'll suspend the rules.
Thank you. Pat, I don't know if you're on or anyone else who can answer. The map that we have here, Exhibit A, I just wanted to clarify. It looks like this is part of the beach, maybe placed closer to the Heiau, as well as the bike path or the pathway. I just wanted to confirm that that's what this is. I have a second sort of legal question about what the implications are if we, you know, as getting a right of entry with the kind of work we're gonna do and what we've seen in terms of the shoreline degradation. So can you share with us a little bit about the work being proposed?
But this right of entry is for the Department of Transportation, yeah. So county won't be doing any work in this area. It'll be all 100% Department of Transportation. I don't really want to speak too much about what the project is because I don't know the full extent of it. But apparently, it's in a nutshell, it's gonna whatever they're gonna put in. It's a new technology that is supposed to enhance the beach. Also, it's supposed to retain sand and it's some new type of technology for shorelines that they're gonna put over there. So.
Understood. So it's the beach restoration project that we're talking about.
That's part of it, yeah. And then to protect the highway, yeah.
And the only right of entry that they need is really the area that we oversee, that you oversee for, which is the bike path part. Okay.
The bush in fronting Cocoa Palms, yeah, that stretch.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the members? Not, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any final discussion from the members? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Chair, next item are claims. C 2022-87, communication from the county clerk transmitting a claim filed against the County of Kauai by James Brown for damage to his vehicle pursuant to Section 23.06 Charter of the County of Kauai, and C 2022-88, communication from the county clerk transmitting a claim filed against the County of Kauai by Socialist Kate Lee Kane for damage to her vehicle pursuant to Section 23.06 Charter of the County of Kauai.
Move to refer to the county attorney for disposition and report back as necessary.
A second.
Second.
Receive no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions or discussion from the members? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item is on page 4, committee reports from your Committee of the Whole, CRCOW 2022-04 and CRCOW 2022-05.
Move to approve.
Second.
Receive no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions or discussion from the members? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Next item are bills for first reading. Proposed draft bill number 2854, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to the all-hazard statewide outdoor warning siren systems. County of Kauai Planning Department, the applicant for ZA 2022-2.
Move to approve on first reading, scheduled for public hearing on May 18th, and refer to the Public Works and Veteran Services Committee.
Is it Planning Committee?
Planning Committee. We'll refer to the Planning Committee.
May I have a second?
Second.
Receive no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? I will suspend the rules. Jody, if you want to just give us a brief description on this item.
Morning. Jody Higuchi Saibusa, Deputy Director, Planning Department. So this bill is relatively simple. It is a bill that includes, let me just pull it up real quick, I'm sorry. It includes the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency managed outdoor warning sirens system and infrastructure from it. It exempts them basically from some of the zoning requirements that would be imposed should they want to install warning sirens or signs of that nature to help warn the public of any hazards. Most of these are going to be in the coastal areas, so it would not necessarily exempt the special management area permits, which so that there would likely be a measure of oversight. Is just under the shoreline setback ordinance, for instance, there would be years of study requiring an environmental assessment, a shoreline certification survey, which could cost thousands of dollars just to cite sirens and to cite these and work towards installing these critical infrastructure that is meant to warn the public. So we believe that those we wanted to make it a little bit easier for them as far as taking it out of some of the shoreline setback ordinance requirements and of course allow them to install these things in a little easier fashion. But of course, special management area SMA permits may still be required.
Any questions from the members on this while the rules are still suspended?
No.
Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any final discussion from the members? If not, roll call vote.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Chalk.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden.
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Aye.
Councilmember Evslin.
Aye.
Councilmember Kuli'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Kaneshiro.
Aye.
7 ayes. The next item is proposed draft bill number 2855, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 8, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended, relating to warehouses in the Commercial General Zoning District, County of Kauai Planning Department applicant ZA 2022-3.
Move to approve on first reading, scheduled for public hearing on May 18th, and refer to the Planning Committee.
Second.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Not any questions or discussion? I'll actually suspend the rules. Jody, if you just want to give us a brief description on this item also.
Sure. This bill is meant to simply clarify, a little confusion that's already existing in the use table. Under the Commercial General Zoning District in the use table, warehouses are listed twice. First, it allows warehouses to be generally permitted. In addition, it later on down the table, it specifies that warehouses require a use permit. So this is meant to just clean that up and clarify that in the commercial general district, warehouses should be outright permitted instead of requiring a use permit.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the members? If not, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any discussion from the members? Take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Chop?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Evsland?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuli'i?
Aye.
Council Chair Kanashiro?
Aye.
7 ayes. The next item is on page 5, bill for second reading. Bill number 2848, a bill for an ordinance amending ordinance number B-2021-877 as amended, relating to the operating budget of the County of Kauai, State of Hawaii for the fiscal year July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, by revising the amounts estimated in the Public Access Open Space Natural Resources Preservation Fund. This is for Kamumene or Hideaway Beach, $1.5 million.
Move to approve.
Second.
Receive no written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? If not, any questions or discussion from the members? I'll just say, I'm happy to be approving this measure. I think we always look at beach access and mountain access is always a important issue for residents, and in this case there was a difficult to access beach access here. Someone got injured. It was brought to our attention that a lot of our paperwork wasn't cleaned up, the easements and all of that information, and in this case maybe it was a blessing that happened because we're able to clean up the easement. I gotta commend everyone for passing. I think it was a charter item on the open space a while ago that allows us to do these kind of one-type improvements. And so in this case, we're allocating $1.5 million to re-improve that access that has all of the legal documents in order. And I think we're basically perpetuating that access for the future forever. So I think it's a great thing. So I will be voting in favor of it. Any other discussion from the members? Councilmember Cowden.
I also just really want to express gratitude. I hope that it doesn't cost the whole 1.5 million, but I want to really thank the planning department for working on this, the open space, the rest of the island for allowing this to be a priority. Hideaways, or Kamumene has been, an important piece for the North Shore there in Princeville. It's one of the, remaining places that people can get down there. And I want to thank Pu'upoa. I want to thank the volunteers. Michael Lyons was a really strong one. And a surf rider. I think this is a really excellent example of the range of the community coming together to do the right thing. And it is, an honor to be part of council when we're protecting something this important to our community. And again, mahalo to the entire island, because it takes a certain amount of sacrifice from each area to support an open space strengthening on another part of the island. So mahalo all.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Yeah, I just want to echo what my councilwoman said, Cowden, how all the people came together to make this open space beach access available and to fruition. And actually, directly south of that, you have some area that's landlocked that your east and north shore people cannot get to. It's so funny how we can get to the beach, but we cannot get to the mountain. But we always say Mauka to Makai. So maybe we can send a message out to our constituents. You know, we made this happen. Let's think big, and maybe we get some mountain access someday on that North Shore Unit C landlocked area. How's that? Thank you.
Councilmember Kuli'i.
Yeah, I too want to say mahalo nui loa to everyone mentioned. And I'll say that this is just one example of, protecting and improving and continuing public access. And we have many other areas that also need attention and perhaps funding as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Evslin?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuli'i?
Aye.
Council Chair Kanashiro?
Aye.
7 ayes. The next item is Bill number 2849, a bill for an ordinance amending ordinance number B-2021-878 as amended relating to the capital budget of the County of Kauai, State of Hawaii for the fiscal year July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022 by revising the amounts estimated in the Public Access Open Space Natural Resources Preservation Fund. Again, this is for Kamumene Beach.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions or discussion from the members? If not, roll call vote.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Aye.
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Evslin?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuli'i?
Aye.
Council Chair Kanashiro?
Aye.
7 ayes. Next item would be items in executive session. This is ES 1072 pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Sections 92-4 and 92-5A4 and Kauai County Charter Section 3.07E. On behalf of the council, the Office of the County Attorney requests an executive session with the council to provide the council with a briefing, discussion, and consultation regarding the quarterly report on pending and denied claims. This briefing and consultation involves the considerations of the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and or liabilities of the council and the county as they relate to this agenda item. And ES 1073, pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Sections 92-4 and 92-5A4 and Kauai County Charter Section 3.07E, the Office of the County Attorney requests an executive session with the council to provide the council with a briefing and request for settlement authority in the matter of Dylan Depew et al. Versus County of Kauai et al. Civil number 5CCV-21-000122, Fifth Circuit Court. This briefing and consultation involves the consideration of the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and or liabilities of the council and the county as they relate to this agenda item.
Can I get a motion to go into executive session on ES 1072 and ES 1073?
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
We received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Seeing none. Any discussion from the members? We will be taking this item at the end of the day today. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. That concludes the business on our council agenda. Not seeing or hearing any objections, this meeting is now adjourned. Next up, we have our committee meetings.
I'd like to call to order the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting. Let the record reflect that all members are present. The first item on our agenda is the minutes of the April 6, 2022 Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on the minutes? Nope. Anyone on Zoom? Nope. Members, any final discussion on the minutes? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Clerk, could you please read the next item on our agenda?
Bill number 2845, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 5A, Section 5A-1126 and Section 5A-91A, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended relating to real property tax, tree farm development exemption.
Could I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
This is the real property tax bill introduced by Councilmember DaCosta to repeal the tree farm exemption. We've talked about this in depth at the last few meetings. We deferred it at our last meeting at my request to give time for the Farm Bureau to weigh in. I think they've officially weighed in that they're staying neutral here. And Councilmember DaCosta, did you want to introduce the bill or give a few words here? Sure. Background.
I'll keep it very brief since we did go into depth during our first introduction. I wanted to say that the Kauai Chamber of Commerce introduced written testimony that supports us moving forward with this. I want to reiterate about the Farm Bureau taking a neutral stance. I want to thank you, actually, Luke, for deferring this because we got into some really fruitful conversation. You know, we reached out to landowners. Anytime you deal with landowners, it gets a little cloudy. But after they heard the vision of our platform here to kind of decommission this tree farm exemption, we actually made a lot of people realize that this is a positive thing, and it adds parity and equity to the playing field of agriculture. And I was going to almost say hi to my intellectual lawyer friend Mauna Kea, but he's not here today. So I guess no more testimony from Mauna Kea against our bill. So with that being, I'm going to keep it brief and just see if there's any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Finance Department or Councilmember DaCosta? All right, we'll suspend the rules. Vice Chair Chalk. Reiko, are you folks there? Yeah, all right, Vice Chair Chalk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Reiko. Thank you, committee members, for actually the deferment because I think it's given me a little bit of time to hear back from some of the stakeholders. I am supportive of moving this forward, given some of the feedback that I've received from the Farm Bureau and others. My main concern here is sort of the timing as it relates to the ag dedication amendment. And my question is about, I would feel comfortable moving forward on this, given some assurances from finance that, the tree farm and even the orchard, operations have a carve-out, have a place for within the ag dedication, and we can foresee that being addressed in the future.
Sure, Reiko Matsuyama, Finance Department. We are in the process of looking at the ag dedication ordinance to revise it. It will look, if passed, it will look quite a bit different than it does now. But we are trying to include all ag, right? So we would not intentionally exclude tree farms or orchards from any kind of ag dedication revision.
Sorry to get a little bit into the weeds, just from my own understanding, if an ag dedication property had, kalo in one area, and then had additional areas that were maybe less conducive to, some of the farming, what we consider farming or for food sustainability, but was could really only be used for tree propagation, would that fit into the matrix of what it is that we will see moving forward? Meaning, will we be able to see it, if a farmer has a piece of property and they want to get as much of it covered, right? Can we look towards them having different uses or farm uses such as tree farming as well as regular food farming?
Yeah, I think that would be all included in whatever plan they submit. when they petition for the ag dedication, it kind of goes along the lines with like big landowners that may have multiple tenants that do different types of ag on one parcel. So they would have, they would have plans for all different, diversified ag, pasture, maybe right next door to each other, depending on how it would be. So I foresee it being something like that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of piggyback with what Mason brought up. I believe, he's talking about the Kalo farmer, possibly there's a little bit of a hill next to the Kalo farm area where you might want to put some ulu trees so he can maximize his food production. I'm almost certain that that's going to be all included in our ag fee, right, of that ag rate, right, Mike?
Correct, and it is now.
Okay, perfect.
Like that, I don't think that would change between the current bill and any proposed bill.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
I have a question, and it's a little hard in that we're going back and forth between a future hypothetical ag dedication change and this, our current ag dedication program and the tree farm exemption. But one of my concerns, which I've spoken to you folks about, is around sort of how to determine economic viability for a tree farm that isn't going to produce any revenue for 20 years. And so if, say, hypothetically, somebody's going for repeated 5-year dedications on a tree farm, showing zero revenue for, 5, 10, 15 years, how are you folks going to determine economic viability for that? And is there the potential in a future ag dedication program to sort of, ensure that there's clarity there around how economic viability for, a tree farm with a 20-year return would be determined?
Yeah, economic viability is very difficult in saying it in general for ag, right? Because every specific ag operation is different in terms of what can be economically feasible or what have you. So I think what's going to have to happen is a tree farm that may not generate revenue for a number of years, decades maybe, they would have to submit that in their original plan, and it's all about reasonableness, right? Our guys down in real property, they know what to expect from different ag operations, and so if it's reasonable, it will be accepted. Petition after petition, let's say, if that were the case. I think in our rules, if and when we haven't started working on the rules yet, but if and when a new dedication program is passed, we are going to have to totally scrap our rules that we have now and stand up new rules. And I think the defining, economic viability or whatever that phrase may be is going to have to be separated by ag industry or ag operations so that we can clearly define it, because it is one of our highest standards in terms of allowing an ag dedication, and so it's going to have to be clearly defined in the rules.
Okay, lots of follow-ups here, but just one quick question of my own for clarity on that. So you're saying theoretically, future ag dedication passes in your rules is going to clarify what economic viability looks like for a variety of different industries. So there could be a tree farm economic viability definition in some capacity. Is that what I'm hearing right? Okay.
Yes.
I think Councilor DaCosta first follow up.
I want to bring some clarity to this. I like to think I am the ag guy besides Mr. Kanashiro sitting among you guys. So I want to let you guys know this is something like making wine with grapes. The guy that makes wine and sells his wine out of a barrel in 2 years have a cheap wine on the shelf. And he or her company makes profit right away. But that wine company that puts that wine on that shelf for 20 years and ages it, yes, they did not make any revenue on that bottle of wine or bottles of wine on the shelf. But when they sell that wine in 20 years, they're going to sell it at a lot more than if they would have done it in 2 years. So that tree farm that is not getting any revenue for the 20 years, when they harvest that hardwood to be put into lumber or to be sold as energy, they're going to receive a very large portion of revenue. Now, if you do the math and roll the revenue over the years it did save on not paying any property tax, the revenue could be distributed out among the life of the 20-year term. So same process as your wine. Just for bringing clarity for people who don't understand, because you guys make it seem like these companies are going to earn zero money for that 25 years. And how can you make them, recover? Well, when they sell that wood in that 25 years, remember, it's a lump sum of profit that comes in. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can clarify my own concern real quick also, and I don't mean to get, go too far down the road of a discussion here, but I think the concern of the tree farm is that they're making a 20 or 25-year business decision around whether to invest in that particular piece of property. And tree farms, other than maybe, energy crops are not all that profitable, otherwise we'd see more of them. And I think when they're trying to determine whether to make that 20-year decision, there needs to be some level of assurance over the particular tax rate that they're going to have for that 20 years and that they're not going to fall out of it after 5 or 10 years. So I recognize that at some point there's a windfall, but the questions are around how much assurance do they have over basing a financial decision off of a particular rate. So that other follow-ups, Councilmember Cooley.
So Reiko, when you were talking about the Ag Dedication Program update, I thought I heard you say if and when. So is there a plan now to do an Ag Dedication Program update? And what is the projected timeline to start it and complete it?
Yes, there is a ag dedication plan. As far as timeline, I would propose that we would try to do first reading sometime this summer. And so that I'm guessing, okay. But yeah, if I have my way, it'll be introduced this summer.
That's good news, but now hearing that sometime this summer, which is just a couple of months away. And when I look at this ordinance, the last part says, shall take effect upon its approval. So that means immediately. So I'm trying to determine what is the hurry? Why aren't we doing it all at the same time? And isn't the annual exemption application deadline typically something like September 20th? So we're cutting it off like immediately. So even if there was somebody in the works right now looking to make that September 20th deadline, they would not be able to if you just did it immediately. So very often, a lot of what we do, there's a little bit of time, like it starts January 1st or at some future date. Why is this being rushed? And
yeah, and actually to clarify, it's even more rushed than you would think, because September 30 is our regular exemption deadline, but July 1 is our deadline for ag dedications and tree farm exemptions. Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, if there were potential tree farm applications out there that would meet the July, or were trying to meet the July 1st deadline, we would have heard of them by now.
So what about?
And they would probably have been already working with us because the cutoff deadline is July 1. So these guys, there's usually back and forth when we do these petitions, and so I think we would know about them by now.
So if there were, you would. It's not a rush, basically, is what you're saying. Because the other thing I would the other thing I would throw out there is when we were talking last time, 2 weeks ago, about the existing exemptions. Technically, I mean, just in reality, it expires as it goes, because once they apply for a certain amount of acreage and they plant it, then it's already done, and then it will expire. And then when they replant those fields, they have to go and do the ag dedication route. So they're no longer the exemption. So in essence, whatever existing exemptions is already out there is already set to expire based on the planting and the harvesting and what have you. So I heard from Green Energy that they intend to do additional planting, but when you grandfather it, it doesn't grandfather them to do additional planting. So by doing this, you're cutting them off from taking advantage in the next cycle to apply for further exemptions. And is that what we really want to do? I don't think so.
Okay, so, I mean, I haven't heard from Green Energy and, if they oppose this or not.
I did. I'll tell you I did.
Their land is grandfathered for the existing exemptions that they have. That being said, it's 25 years or first harvest, right? So if they harvest their land, then they go into the ag dedication program. And even at the current law state, you cannot get back tree farm exemptions on the land. So even if we change nothing for them either, even with this bill, because they cannot reapply for another tree farm exemptions once they harvest. They have to roll into a petition for a 20-year ag dedication right now.
Right, but they can apply for new acreage and new planting, correct?
New acreage, yes. New planting on existing tree farm, no.
Right, but there's acreage all around the existing tree farm, and if they weren't wanting to plant additional acreage and they got access to that land from the landowner, they would not be able to apply for the exemption if it took effect immediately. But if it took effect at some future date, it would almost give them a window to say, hey, this is going away. If you want to do anything additionally, you better do it now. And I got indication in writing from them that that's what they want to do, and I just need to put them in touch with you, unless, and maybe we defer this, unless you can tell me today that if I was to put amendment forward, putting a date in there other than saying immediately, putting the future cycle deadline, or maybe even January 1st or October 1st, because I think they said by September they would have their exemption application done. And I was thinking about that September 20th deadline, but you're telling me it's July 1st, so they won't be able to make the July 1st deadline.
No. Yeah, and just to reiterate, like, if they want new, they'll fall into the ag dedication program. So they're still gonna reap the benefits of that program's tax relief. I don't know how many new acres they're intending to plant. And KIUC also did contact us. They're also not opposed to the bill because when they saw the numbers of what kind of tax relief the ag dedication program provided, that between the zero tax, I think that's a policy called, do we want to extend zero tax to more green, more tree farms, more green energy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's the whole thing about, and that I think we all support, that a tree farm captures carbon and it stores in the soil and the trees, and that we're trying to deal with global climate, change and all of that. And who knows, maybe there is another, we're not giving it any time. We put this forward. We kind of committed to a certain philosophy with the environment and all of that. And we have many, 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 many acres on this island sitting fallow, growing guinea grass. So this just seems so fast and sort of rushed. And I'm wondering why we wouldn't let it be out there for a while, so that, because we haven't even heard, we haven't gotten testimony from a lot of people, from any, and maybe the whole thing about grandfathering, the small tree farmers, they're busy, what have you, but the grandfathering to me is not really grandfathering because they're all expiring anyway. So if it was grandfathering to the company rather than to the existing acreage, it would be one thing. But if it's just grandfathering to the existing acreage, it's expiring anyway. So they don't have the opportunity to do any additional acreage. And I know what you're saying is the cost difference between the exemption and the ag dedication is not that much, and they should just pay the difference. But to me, there's also a principle here about what we said we would do in the very beginning. And when Chair talked about what they did their, financials on, they did it on that. And to take it away from them, and you would be taking it away from them if you don't allow them. And they're saying they just want till September. So, to do one more application. So why not give them that? What's the hurry? Especially since you're doing the Ag Dedication Program update in the early summer, which is just a couple of months away, which would have seen you would have done this all together. And I know it wasn't initiated by you. It was initiated by Councilmember DaCosta, but eventually you guys worked together. So here we are. Let her respond.
And I would just comment, you're talking about green energy or, the sustainability issues for this. This has been around since 1996. So it's not like they haven't had time. They've had time. The industry that was trying to be created in 1996 was not carbon. And so these guys are taking advantage of an exemption that really never wasn't supposed to be for them, to be quite frank. And so do we want to incentivize more of that? Do we want, I don't know. And that's a policy call. To me, giving them more time doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the fact that they can just apply for the ag dedication. They haven't come out. If they want new land, that's one thing. If they're existing land, and I don't know, maybe the grandfathering thing is being confused. Because they can, like I said before, they cannot reapply for back-to-back tree farm exemptions, right? So even as the current law stands, they would all have to fall into the ag dedication program. For new lands, I would say you can apply now before July 1 if you have new lands, or before this bill passes, you could apply now. And then you would again be grandfathered in as the way this plan works. So, that discussion is up to you folks as policymakers for sure. But I would say that from our perspective, we like the immediate effective date.
Did you have a follow-up also?
I'll go later because my follow-up was back to the economic viability portion. Which
I actually want to.
Sorry, Councilmember Cotton, we'll get to you after. Councilmember DaCosta had a follow-up, and then you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to follow up with what Councilmember Cooley was saying. We sit here and we throw out so important type of jargon. I'm going to go with what Mauna Kea used the word violate the general plan. I heard Cooley say trees taking carbon and make oxygen. I believe in 2000, when this general plan was into revision, it did not have anything to do with trees that were going to be grown for energy. I'm going to reiterate what Finance said. They took advantage of something that we did not see. My former mayor is sitting right next to me, and in 2018, before COVID, we had redo our general plan. And food security was not part of that because COVID did not hit. When COVID had hit, we had learned something very viable. And as a councilman, it's my duty to make sure our community is at the forefront of food security when we are 91% dependent on food. And we are 70% energy efficient in green energy. So with that being said, I introduced this so we could put parity and equality among the agricultural leases and make sure that food security, you cannot eat branches and you cannot eat twigs. Put food security at the forefront. Now, green energy is the topic here. That's what I've heard. I haven't heard them disagree. I haven't heard them provide testimony. I've spoken to a few people that work both for KIUC and green energy. KIUC pays green energy a handsome rate per kilowatt. They're already drawing revenue. They're making revenue on the trees they are harvesting. How much more do we enable a business to, and they don't get the benefit, I believe, of that real property tax. I believe the landowner that they lease from gets the real property tax benefit. Am I correct, Rico? Because we spoke with, I believe, Nikki. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the tax burden falls with the landowner. I think the purchase power agreements between Green Energy and KIUC are they use the property tax expense in the calculation to determine what that purchase power agreement will look like.
Okay. So, yeah, I rest my discussion with what I just reiterated.
Councilmember Cotton, we'll go to you in 1 second. I just want to clarify one thing. In that the 2018 general plan does reference green energy. It says carefully managed forestry efforts also provide opportunities for green energy production, food forests, and materials for local manufacturing.
I didn't say it doesn't. Look, I said COVID never hit till after Bernard Guy did the general plan, which we had learned in COVID that not only energy is important, that food security is. That's why I want to make sure that we don't throw these acronyms and this jargon out here that confuses people. My intent was directly at point of what I was trying to do.
Thank you. Councilmember Cowden.
Thank you. I'm following up on Kipu Kai's comments. First of all, Reiko and Mike, I want to thank you for the time that you spent with me to help me understand where there is grandfathering, where this really in all three bills, helping me to feel more comfortable at allowing these to sundown. What I want to support and what Kipu Kai Cooley, Councilmember Cooley is asking, is why is this being rushed at the front? I'm very eager for us to be reviewing our ag dedication bill. And I deeply value what we discussed before in this, food, production capacity that Billy DeCosta is talking about. Yes, that's important, and it's something I've been passionate about for a good 12 years. So we have a lot of land. We can do food production. I like that there's ways that Homestead can cover a lot of these diversified farms. There's lots of good ways that things can be managed. Eager to work on this ag dedication bill. Why is it that we can't parallel these? Like, I would feel much better if I saw the ag dedication bill and knew that we're really creating something far better and more appropriate for this decade than and even the next decade, and those moving forward is really what matters. Our ag dedication was put forward when we had large landowners doing export crops, largely. Why can't we do these collectively with the ag dedication if that's happening in a couple of months?
Yeah, so for us, these two programs, yes, they're both ag, but they're both very separate and distinct. And we have one person managing both programs, right? What we really want to do is funnel all ag into ag dedication, right? Ag dedication is our primary vehicle for tax relief for the ag industry. We really want to funnel everybody to one program so that we, real property, can manage just one program. As it works now, when tree farms are expiring, let's say you're on, it's very complicated. Let's say you're on adjacent parcels and this this part gets harvested, and so it goes into a 20-year ag dedication. This part gets harvested 3 years later. It's on a different 20-year dedication cycle. So it's very difficult for us to manage them together. So what we want to do, and it's going to look very different, right? The tree farm, because we're sunsetting it, there will be no new tree farms coming in. So it's easy for us to say, yes, we can grandfather these guys, we can run this program and see it through the duration of the existing tree farm exemptions. The ag dedication program is completely separate, right? Because we have existing and we're creating a new program. So the grandfathering concept that we're talking about for tree farms is going to look very different than the ag dedication program. So I think if we start combining these together, it's going to be very convoluted. Like this tree farm exemption, to me, it's very cut and dry. The ag dedication is going to be very complex, and it's going to affect more people. And so you're going to have, it should be kind of set on its own aside. I'm thinking about the fact that this is our only ag relief, tax relief program. You know, not trying to juggle all these other programs. For us, it would be much more streamlined and easier to pass any kind of ag bill if we're just talking about one at a time. You know, the ag dedication stuff, it's been talked about for a long time. You know, they had working groups, they talked about it for years, and they could never come to a consensus. And so nothing was ever done. It's hard for me to, I mean, I don't know how this time around is going to look. I hope it's going to be different. And so I think that the best hope we have is to really isolate that issue, make sure that all farmers are included so that they're in that tax relief program. Go ahead.
So I can support your goal there. What is uncomfortable for me, what I'm just hearing you say, is that it makes it easier for you if I surrender other options beforehand. And like if we're looking at them, you know, side by side, it doesn't mean that we need to mix them together. What I'm hoping is, however complicated, when I look at the ag dedication bill, that I can go, wow, that makes good sense. That's reasonable. We talked about how heavily worked are our assessors, right? We have 36,000 properties. You know, we have 3, kind of 5, kind of 7 assessors, and so assessment people. So we need to really value their time as a premium. I get the importance of making it be narrow rather than fragmented for what they're working on. I support that. What I heard when we spoke is that one time, maybe in 1991, we had a wasteland applicant no longer there, that there is really nothing remaining on the orchards. There's 16 properties left on these tree farms that, you know, it's going to be pretty good just to like say, okay, we're sundowning all of this and we're ready to move on. Well, I support that. I just want to see what we're moving on to first. Like we have had, you know, 2 years of asking us to just make decisions based on faith of things that don't, not from you guys, but from the government in general, certainly the state. We've had to make really important decisions for our community based on faith that the government, the Department of Health knows what they're doing. And, you know, we're not seeing those things necessarily pan out consistently. And, you know, I mean, we have to learn something from that. Like, I haven't been able to get through to green energy. I need to probably try harder. I have made a number of calls. And I still don't understand why, you know, I think I'll be just as likely to support this in 2 months as I am now. I'll just feel comfortable. You know, it's like a leap of faith to sundown these based on something that I haven't seen yet. Why can't we do them together? I don't get it. I don't get why it will complicate things if it sort of happens in the same window, because we look at it, we go, yeah, that's great. And then you just jettison the things that don't work.
Yeah, I mean, I just would say, like, you know, you're relying on something that you haven't seen yet, yes, but you're relying on something that you are yet to provide comment to, right? So you will be able to ensure that tree farms will be included in future ag dedication program.
Oh, I'm not confident that I can do that. You know, absolutely not confident that I can get anything that I might feel that I need when I am one of seven. When I am one of seven, the odds aren't with me that I'm going to be able to achieve what I'm hoping for. It's possible, but I cannot influence the vote of the other 6 members in any sort of, with any sort of certainty. So it doesn't mean I necessarily get to make those changes. I can want to make the changes. It doesn't mean I succeed. So it isn't the same thing.
Councilmember Cowden, did you have more questions?
Well, I guess not. I mean, I don't feel like I still don't feel like I've been given a good reason why we have to say yes today when this is going to be immediate in 2 weeks. I don't feel like we've heard anything. If none of this matters now, why does it matter? If it's not important now and it hasn't been for years, what difference does 2 months make? I don't understand.
Councilmember Cooley.
Following up on the why it's, you know, the timing is so, why it's being rushed. Rico, when we were talking, you said that you didn't know of any others that was interested in applying. And then when I had talked about green energy and doing an additional application, you had said you had not heard from green energy. So would you be supportive of a deferral and then allowing within the next 2 weeks for at least you and green energy to get together? Because it sounds like you're not supportive of a date that's later than July.
I mean, with all due respect, I know they knew about this bill from first reading back in, I don't know, February. And they have not, you know, come forward with any testimony for or against this bill.
Yeah, well, I could just
they
tell
have
you
not
that,
reached out to me directly to talk about numbers.
well, I'm one of the 7 council members, and they did tell me. So now I'm just passing it on. That's all I can do at this point. And now I have strong feelings about what I support and don't support based on, you know, I care about the environment and I care about fallow lands growing trees instead. So I can only do that right now. And I can only tell you what I know. And I wish they would have sent what they sent to you, to me, to you. But what's the rush? Can we defer this for 2 weeks? And can I at least put you in touch with them? I won't sit and meet with you guys because I have this and I want you to have it.
I mean, I would love to take a meeting with them. That's
It may not
you know,
take a meeting,
completely
it take
within
a
the
phone
scope of
call
this context.
or an email.
Councilmember Cooley, did you have a further follow-up?
Well, I'm just ready to make a motion to defer. If,
maybe before you make that motion, because it'll cut off discussion, if Councilmember DeCosta and then Vice Chair Chapman.
We had one deferral, and we had the time to investigate, and we did all our homework. We got Chamber of Commerce to agree. We spoke to Farm Bureau with Uncle Jerry, Uncle Johnny, even Laurie. Laurie mentioned the global warming, and I see you're passionate about, you know, the tree carbon sequestration and the oxygen and all.
Environment.
I understand that. Let me finish. I understand that, Kiku Guy. but we're talking about one company here, Green Energy. I never hear us talk about anybody else, a company that is making profit on their alternative energy with KIUC. So we had our deferral. This is my opinion right now, because this is the 3 bills that I introduced. Finance is backing it up because it's going to make their process a lot more simple. When we discuss, like Councilwoman Felicia Cowden said, she's only one of 7. Our job here on the table is to discuss stuff and look at how we can inspire each other to vote in the best interest of what the bill can represent. And the bill does not, this 3 exempting only satisfies correctly right now one company, Green Energy. They are grandfathered clause in. Their parcels that they're growing trees are not going to be affected. I want to share something else with you guys, since you guys talk about, the carbon sequestration and the oxygen. Do you know when we harvest those trees, when we clear cut those trees, that clear cutting process has been banned across the United States in their logging industry? Do you guys know that? Because of the minerals that wash into the streams that affect the trout, the steelhead, and the native species in the rivers and streams of America. Yet here in Hawaii, we don't talk about when Green Energy harvests all the trees and we have barren dirt and rainfall goes on the earth and the minerals go in the streams that go from Mauka, Canutsins River, all the way down to Mahaleapu into the ocean. We don't talk about the o'opo that is negatively affected. We don't talk about the opai shrimp that is negatively affected. So if you guys talk about issues that are pressing with green energy, that's one of the issues that I'm passionate about. So I'm not going to support a deferral. I think we had the time. I think Green Energy had a chance to come and speak. Gosh, Mauna Kea was here advocating. So we have our homework. We did it. I think we should vote on it. And it's still going to go into our final council meeting later, where all 7 of us can vote. And that's my opinion. And I hope the chair can speak before somebody asks for a deferral. I would like my chair to speak before they ask for a deferral.
Let's stick to questions for finance for now as much as possible. We will take testimony if there is, call the meeting back to order, do final discussion, and at that point, if there's a move to defer, then we can take that move. So are there further questions for finance here? Vice Chair Shaw.
Thanks. I think I just want to clarify what I heard from Rico, because I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's how we can support both of it. And it sounds like it's the timing issue. So I just want to get clear from Rico. What I'm hearing from you is you really actually don't want any more new applications, because that would sort of be counterproductive to how you wanted to manage moving forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's well said, Vice Chair Chuck. I think because we're grandfathering it in, we could still be running this program for the next 25 years.
Okay.
And so we're, maybe that's kind of the urgency.
Okay. Thanks for your stance. I'm clearer now. And I have a question for Councilmember Cooley, just because of where we're headed with this. So, Councilmember Cooley, my understanding is that you want to move this out further.
Just a little.
Yeah. So maybe
September 15th.
Change the date to September or okay. And you want a deferral to create that amendment, or
I
do you
can
want
do
to
the
do it now?
amendment.
Okay.
Sounds like, she's again, there seems to be some kind of hurry. I don't understand. So if we can't defer 2 weeks to talk to Green Energy, then I have to go based on what I heard from Green Energy and make my amendment. And I'll do that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's my question.
Chair Conchio.
Yeah, my question is for Rico. And I'm not going to get back to economic viability because I think we're way past that point. I think it's more based on timing. So, how would you feel about just doing a July 1st and, having anybody that wants to do their thing now, they have to do it by the July 1st deadline, and then the policy changes after that. I mean, that is the deadline anyways for this year. But I mean, what's your opinion? I can't see us going to September because then you add a whole nother year to the whole dedication process. But what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, I would be okay with amending to make it effective July 1st.
I have a quick question, Reiko. So you mentioned that if we go beyond July 1st into September and an application comes through, we're running the program for 25 more years. But aren't there people who just got in the program in the last few years? So, or I guess what's the estimated time frame for running the program anyway?
Well, I don't know. I have to review each one because it kind of was dependent on first harvest, right? First harvest or 25 years. So they would have had to submit their plan on when first harvest was, and then we'd have to double check that. So I can't get back to you right now.
Okay, but sorry, well, real quick, do you know when the last applicant came into the program?
I'd have to go back and look at our records.
That's okay, thank you. Questions, Councilmember DeCosta? Corporal, yeah, sorry.
I mentioned this before. I just wanted to say that just agriculture in general is so important to this whole island, and I said that before. And if there was a way, and even green energy, yes, one company and one discussion we're having, but 3 companies in general and overall. But in this particular discussion, what I'm hearing, and I think a little bit more time, there's opportunity to kind of open the door a little bit more maybe. But at the end of the day, everybody is at the table for me. And Rico, I know what you're saying, trying to get the time frame connected, right? But for green energy, if there's one company that did a lot for Kauai, but at the same time, there's other opportunities coming our way. So I think by looking at ways to offer a little bit more, maybe, that we can get to the final, and then go from there. I think that, to me, would make it work and benefit all, because at the end of the day, it includes everyone. And so, Rico, I don't know if that's something, on your side, if we can kind of look at, again, a little bit more time.
Can I ask about that?
Councilmember, sorry, Reiko, you have an answer to that as far as, I think you're asking for deferring it and doing it at the same time as ag dedication,
yeah,
is that what I'm hearing?
If you can, because...
Yeah, I still think that it's going to convolute the ag dedication process, to say that we're going to still have 2 programs that we're analyzing. Ag dedication on itself, standalone, is complicated enough. And I think we should try to funnel everybody through there. And so I think it would be, again, and I don't know, maybe I'm not saying this correctly, I think it would be easier to focus on one program at a time, rather than say, oh, well, we still have this other program and these guys can fall into this one. So we have to create the one program such that all ag is included in the one program, and isolate it to there. Because like I said, that is our primary vehicle for tax relief for ag. That's like the bread and butter of the ag industry. And I think we need to focus on that to make sure that everybody kind of funnels through there, and then everybody's equal. I think we got away from the whole equity portion of this in the fact that these tree farms pay 0 and everybody else pays through that ag dedication program. So I think I don't want to abandon that portion of this, because I think that's really a huge part of our intent, is to create the equity issue, and create equity within the entire ag industry, all facets of ag. And so I'll just leave it at that.
Sorry, we'll take a 5-minute caption break, 10-minute caption break, and then come back while the rules just suspended.
Mics.
I was going to say I got to go to the bathroom, that's why.
call the meeting back to order. The rules are still suspended, and I believe, Councilmember DaCosta, you were in the process of asking a question.
I actually was going to ask for a recess. I'm fine.
Okay, further questions, members? Councilmember
I just got this.
Willie?
I don't see him. Are you there, Reiko?
Hi, sorry.
Okay, Councilmember Cooley has a question.
When you were talking about the hardship of managing a new application, say you got an application in on September 1st. The application is for the exemption to plant in these new acreage going forward, right? And so do they have just a certain amount of time to actually plant?
I'm gonna have to defer to Mike on that one. I don't know the specifics.
But the other thing is then, in essence, you're managing it or paying attention to it is that to ensure that they're actually planting and following their plan. And then once the trees are planted, you're not really doing anything except watching the trees grow for 20, 25 years. But then you said at the end, they have to, I guess you have to be made aware of their harvest, and then the exemption ends for those parcels, right? So, I mean, it doesn't seem like a ton of work for a new application, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
I mean, okay, so yeah. I mean, it is hard work to monitor. You know, like I said, we only have one person doing all of these ag things. They do things such as thinning, and you know how that differentiates between harvest can be sometimes hard to identify. And so, and then also, you know, how I was talking to before on how the 20-year ag dedication will be on different cycles, even though they're adjacent properties. So there are, you know, it's not just receiving the application saying, okay, yeah, it sounds reasonable. Yes, you're in, and just leaving it go. There is constant monitoring that happens throughout the exemption.
Okay, I'll give it other people a chance.
So, Member Cowden, question?
Yes, thank you. I did successfully get a hold of Green Energy while we were on the break, and they said they had sent this email earlier. I said, send it again. So it came in as testimony, council testimony, so all of us should be seeing it. I do not see an earlier date, but this came very quickly, so it's doubtfully just rewrote it. I guess that it is part of their routine to be putting in these new applications, and that they definitely have a plan for another application to be going in. So I know this is a question. I'm going to actually forward it to both of you. And
we actually did just receive it. I haven't had a time to.
Okay, so you did receive it. So I think, you know, it supports what Council Member Kawhi is saying, is that they're investors. You know, I know that there is challenges on the investors, and so it makes it hard for them to trust the government of Kauai when there are big and quick changes. So they have over 3,200 acres of land. It seems that the long-term price that's out there right now, the benefit with the ag dedication isn't, that much, but it is definitely more than nothing. This is different than what my understanding was when we were in our conversation. I really appreciate everything that we talked about. I was under the impression that there were no new applicants coming in. So I guess this application is waiting and ready to go. So for me, I would be supportive of, doing a deferment on this so that there can, really be a robust conversation on what this is, because, I was surprised these guys aren't more involved to be watching this, but apparently didn't get some of my earlier messages. But this to me, please do take a look at it. I think it is important. It doesn't shift my support for the next two bills, but this one, having been in business for decades, it's important to be able to rely on commitments for which long-range planning is had. So I feel best that if we're able to talk to the applicant, that is the main user of this type of property. So, I'm not necessarily trying to support them. I'm trying to support honorable business, and that would be my input.
I think being that we just received this, I haven't had time to really review it and think of it thoroughly. So I guess, having a meeting with them, deferring, having a meeting with them, and kind of reviewing what their testimony says might be appropriate.
Thank you, and thank you for all your diligent hard work. And I want to thank all of Real Property Tax, because the volume of what you're doing and the importance of what you're doing is extraordinary. And I respect what Councilmember Costa is speaking about relative to environmental impacts of clear cutting, regardless of whether it's a planted forest or not. I mean, still all the life that surrounds it, the ecosystem, still occurs, right? So I'm acknowledging all that, but that is the position that I'm going to want to support. I want discussion to continue to happen, but I would be very willing to move to defer when it's time.
Okay, any final questions for finance? Questions? All right, all the rules are still suspended. Do we have anybody in the audience who wants to testify? Is there anybody on Zoom here to testify? No? All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. So we'll do a final discussion, and then if there is a move to defer, we'll take that after. Final discussion. Vice Chair Chalk.
No, I can go along with where the body wants to go on this, and given finance's request to have this discussion further with this potential applicant, I guess I would maybe go further make the request to, if and when that meeting occurs, that we might get further insight as to the future of how this, this new application will be utilized. And see, because I think a part of it for us at the council is, as we've discussed, how in alignment is it with our goals so that we can support it. I don't think we should be legislating for one organization or company, but I think that we also have shared interests that we want to accomplish. So if we can get more information in this time of deferral, would be really, beneficial to the final decision. Thank you.
Further discussion?
I just wanted to reiterate what my council vice chair said about lobbying for just one company. You know what's so funny is that we had two smaller companies, ranchers, I believe Wayne Souza is a name and Kimo Akita is another name, who got displaced from their cattle ranch operation on two different parcels of land to grow trees. And let me remind all of you, trees are not harvested with electric bulldozers and excavators. They're harvested with large diesel equipments. So with that being said, we never advocated for those two ranchers who got displaced off their lands. But seems kind of funny how we're going to advocate now for green energy. But if we need to do the deferral, I guess I have no choice. I'm going to wait to see how the vote goes. I rest.
Further discussion?
Yeah. So I'm glad you transitioned from the word lobbying to advocating, because as council members, I think it's our job to advocate. And I'm not advocating for any one company. I'm advocating for the environment. We keep hearing the thing about equity, and I would just want to put out there that, and then the whole thing about this was originally put forward for another purpose, and I understand it was the lumber industry, but the benefit, the additional benefit we get from a tree farm exemption is clearly that we'd be growing a lot more trees. Sadly, is not what happened. I mean, why not even have food forests, right? You know, hundreds of acres of food forests. The growing of trees helps our environment, period. But the point about equity between agriculture, right? With all farming and agriculture, there's inherent risk, weather, soil fertility, etc. But the payback for the different types of farming happens at a different rate. Tree farms take 25 to 30 years. That's why the exemption is there at 0 for that period of time, because they're not making money until they harvest those trees. This makes clear sense. The fact that we're just getting rid of it, I don't know. You know, it makes clear sense if really what we want is more tree farms. You know, and that's what we committed to initially, right? So it's not unreasonable or discriminatory or unfair or inequitable, right? Equity means you treat everyone differently so that they end up at the same starting point, right? You know that graph, right? The shorter person. So to use that equity argument to me is wrong, you know. I was prepared to put forward an amendment to extend, to make the deadline not immediate, because I don't see any rush, but to make it September 15th, to give time for new applications. I'm held that back. I'm going with what the administration can support and supporting a deferral. So if Councilmember Cotton makes the motion, I'd be happy to second it.
Councilmember Cotton?
Okay, I will do that. I just want to make the comment that I certainly don't place large industry over our cattlemen. We want to make sure that everybody is treated rightfully by our government, that we find that what I have been always saying, we want a win-win. We want the things to be fair. We want to avoid, it seems like, relentless litigation that happens for our county. And we want things, what my hope is that when we come up with this ag dedication amendment this summer, that it's going to be great, and that we will be able to extinguish this and all the other bills, because it will be well handled. I have faith in our real property tax team. But for right now, we need to make sure that we are fair to all. So in the interest of having a business conversation with the impacted business applicant, and this ag dedication bill is about business, I move to defer respectfully.
Hang on. I have something I introduced.
There's further discussion here. If you guys don't mind withdrawing that, we can finish out our final discussion and then take the motion to defer.
Okay, I'll withdraw my, move.
All right, Councilor Acosta and then Chair Kaneshiro.
I want to introduce something that I hope can negotiate the deferral and actually move the date to July 1st and kind of make sure everybody has a equal chance at the deadline. So I want to introduce my amendment.
Just a second.
Second for discussion.
Sorry, do you want to describe it?
I want to read this. So this ordinance shall take effect upon its approval, provided that the repeal of Chapter 5A, Section 11.26, County Code would be approved by the director prior to the effective date of July 1st, 2022.
I think it's deleting that language and just saying it shall take effect on July 1st, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that way now all of the applicants who was interested would still have that effective date, and it wouldn't be affected if we were to vote on this.
I had a process question on the timeliness of bills taking effect. The original bill said to take effect upon approval. Depending on how long it takes to get approved, what would be the soonest that date would be? Would it be before July 1st? And how far before?
It would be before July 1st, because if you deferred it for 2 weeks and you voted on it, then it would be come up in another
Full
2
council.
weeks for full council, so it'd be 1 month. 1 month from now
And then the mayor
is
has
in
to sign
June.
it?
And the mayor has a week, 1 week to sign, 2 weeks to sign. So it'd still be,
It would be first week of June. So it's giving us 3 additional weeks. Yeah, I have no problem supporting this because it's giving us 3 additional weeks from what is currently on the record. But I still want more time, and I'm going to support the deferral eventually.
Further discussion on the bill or on the amendment?
Yeah, I can support it as well, Mr. Chair.
I'm not on the committee, but, I do think that a July 1st, 2022 deadline does make sense, because that is the actual deadline that everyone has to turn in their dedication for this upcoming year anyways. So to put a deadline that's past that doesn't make sense, because then you may as well make the next deadline July 1st, 2023, which is another year and a half out, which, who knows where anything's gonna be by then. So, I think this July 1st, 2022 deadline does make sense. And if somebody needs to dedicate, then they have the opportunity to dedicate it now. And I think we've made it very aware of the situation, and they should start contacting real property tax and try to get their lands dedicated. So.
Further discussion, Councilor
I too, I'm not on the committee, but totally support the July 1st. I think we at least move that for discussion and all of that, and giving time for it, and finance agrees as well. So I think it's a good move forward, and giving a little bit more time and then moving forward. So I support that.
Councilor Cowden?
Ken, I'm just clarifying what this is here. So this is saying to put the date on there of July 1st, and what the group is asking for is, rather than a deferral, that you want to pass this with the July 1st deadline, which gives the opportunity for the conversation. Is that what you're saying? And then, or would we still defer? But we could have the July 1st in there. It seems to me it should be July 1st. What are you asking?
From what I've heard, it sounds like some members are still supporting a deferral. So when the motion for a deferral comes up, I think we'll see where the votes land. But there seems to be some support for a deferral along with this amendment.
So would we make the amendment and then we would make a vote after we've made the amendment to determine if we're going to do a deferral? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right, so yeah, I support the amendment as well. I also will be supporting a deferral if somebody makes that motion. Any final discussion on the amendment? No, seeing none.
I was hoping that the amendment wouldn't have to lead to a deferral because now we're giving everybody the opportunity for an extension to July 1st.
I had an amendment and I didn't make it because we're gonna do the deferral.
So I think let's take the vote on the amendment. We can go to final discussion on the bill. We can close out that discussion, and then if somebody wants to move to defer, they can do so at that time. So we'll take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuali'i?
Aye.
Committee Chair Epsilon?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Amendment passes, and we'll finish out our final discussion here on the bill itself. Some of you have spoken already. Anybody, are there final thoughts here before we take the motion to defer, if there is one? Yeah, I'll say briefly. I support the move to defer. I think the time that we've already had has certainly given me time to clarify my own thoughts on the bill. I really appreciate the work that Councilmember DeCosta has done here, and the work that the Finance Department has done. You know, I've come around in my own thinking to, I think, recognizing that I don't think that tree farms should receive a beneficial tax rate if they're on prime agricultural land. Right, if it's flat land, if it's irrigated, and you know, rated by the state as A or B level land that you know should be producing food, or at least we shouldn't be trying to incentivize tree farms. And further, I recognize that the Finance Department's overworked and understaffed, and if we can streamline their work, they can do a better job at enforcing our other existing programs. All that said, though, you know, while recognizing that the ordinance is flawed, you know, I do think that there is room still for some type of beneficial rates for tree farms for all the reasons that we've spoken about already. The original state tree farm exemption in 1963, which applied statewide, what the intent was to incentivize tree farms on marginal ag land. So that's ag land that's not going to be likely to produce food crops, and I think there's still certainly a need for that type of thing. And from talking to farmers, I think there is a need for a beneficial tax rate there, or at least some long-term certainty for tree farms given their long payoff period. So, you know, given that, I think there's value in keeping this discussion going in some capacity. And just to recognize that, you know, we've heard that the tree farm exemption has not been effective. We received some testimony to that effect. We've heard it repeatedly from others, and that's certainly not the case, looking at green energy, right? The tree farm exemption has been effective. Green energy produces 11% of our energy for Kauai. It's the reason that we're, you know, basically independent of foreign oil. It's part of the reason that our rates are so stable when the rest of the state is not, right? As oil costs go up, we're not impacted here. And it produces $48 million in revenue annually of money that's staying on Kauai and not going to overseas oil. Not to mention the incredible carbon benefits of burning trees that are getting replanted rather than burning foreign oil. So I think the tree farm exemption has achieved something incredibly significant here, and that's worth, you know, continuing to talk about. So all that said, recognizing that the current ordinance is flawed for a variety of reasons, but there is still value here in something. I will ultimately support a deferral if that motion is made. So given that, oh, sorry, Chair Conchio.
Yeah, I guess for me, I don't think the bill is flawed. Again, I'm not on the committee, but when you look at it, there is a tax incentive for all agriculture. That's the agricultural dedication process. That's the process that they want to change everybody back to. You know, right now we don't give any exemptions for cattle farming. We don't give any exemptions for diversified agriculture, growing lettuce, growing even anyone with a farm, with a orchard, I think it was under 50 acres or something like that. I mean, we don't give any exemptions for any of that. If we start to try and go down the path of economic viability, I mean, we're never going to come to a conclusion on it, because a tree farm may be good one year, it may be horrible the next year. A cattle prices may be good one year, it may be horrible the next year. You know, we may get a storm and our whole diversified agriculture industry is in the dumps. I mean, you cannot look at it based on its economic viability and try to pick a number that it's going to fit that category. I think you have to look at it holistically and take a step back and say, you know, what do we want to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And what is fair and equitable among everybody? And I think finance department is coming in and saying, you know, it's very difficult to implement a program where you're giving someone a 25-year exemption, and then you have to either keep track of or hope that those people tell you when they did their first harvest so that you can go and change your real property taxes. And, you know, can you imagine if you have 10 or 15 of those, our ag inspectors not going out every single year and trying to see, did they cut a tree here or not, or did they grow? You know, if it's a diversified ag or pasture, they can go there any time of the year. They can look, is there fencing, is there animals there? Yeah, they can go to a diversified ag farm. They can look on Google Maps. They can say, oh, these guys are actively farming. For them to figure out if a tree farm has harvested their first harvest, again, that's what they're saying is very difficult to implement, and that's what they want to try and get away from. And then, you know, just create some equity, because again, we're not giving any exemptions to any other ag industry out there, which every single ag industry has a difficulty. I give anybody credit going into ag. Tree farming, ranching, I mean, regular farming for, you know, crop farming. But again, we're trying to make it simpler on our administration and making it fair. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we're getting like very all over the place if we're going to say, hey, no, let's wait until our this new ag dedication process is through, because I am just looking at this one bill. You can imagine how long it's going to take the council to pass a whole overlap and redoing of our ag bill. I mean, that might not happen for another 2 years. And what are we going to do? Just drag this process out where finance is saying, you know, we want to change it now. We want to make it easier for us to implement. We want to make it equitable. And so, I mean, that's just my comments on it as we move forward, because I've heard us go, I mean, all over the place. And, you know, I think by putting in this July 1st date, it's a good date. It's a date anyone that wants to dedicate their land now should turn all their information in. And again, if anybody wants to dedicate their tree farms, they should do it now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I could just clarify my own, you know, when I said the ordinance is flawed, I actually mean the existing tree farm exemption on the books is flawed, and not necessarily the bill we have here. You know, even with the deferral, I think I personally ultimately will support the repeal bill. But what I am trying to say is that I do think that there is value in trying to, at some point in the future, create a program that will give beneficial rates, possibly above and beyond the ag dedication program, for use of marginal farmland that can't otherwise be used for food production.
I would like to sum it up before you guys go into requesting anything. We've done our homework. We had a 2-week period. And please be open and be receptive. We've done our homework. Finance had agreed to meet with Green Energy. These issues that we're talking about can be taken up on the next final and second reading to be discussed among all 7 of us. Why it cannot happen? I'm ready to move on this today. We can put it in second reading at the next meeting. All 7 of you can chime in, and at that point we can make a decision. Finance will have time to talk to Green Energy in between that time period. What would make the deferral more substantial when Finance had already agreed to go talk to Green Energy? Like, tell me, am I missing something here? Like, if anybody else going to do something in the deferral period? Because Finance had agreed to go talk to them with or without the deferral. Am I correct, Rico?
It's in discussion right now.
Yes.
Rico, am I correct?
If you have further questions, we could suspend the rules again if you want to bring Rico folks back.
No, I just wanted to clarify my discussion point. I'm telling you that they had agreed on the floor, right, that they were going to go see Green Energy when this email came in. So I'm asking, the question was that, you know.
Sorry, yes, we will reach out to Green Energy and try to make contact with them.
Okay, and at the second and final reading, there could be introduced amendments, there could be more discussion on the floor, right? We still gotta approve as a 7-unit group.
Yeah.
So I don't see why we cannot move on that today.
From my own perspective, the reason I personally will support the deferral, if somebody makes that motion, I believe we heard from Councilmember Cooley that he was considering maybe possibly an amendment into next year. We've heard other considerations.
No, just September.
I'm sorry, into next, yeah, into September.
Fiscal year.
Also, you know, some discussion around the possibility of having a line with ag dedication. We tried to avoid certainly any amendments at second reading. So I think given the fact that there might still be some work here to do, it seems to me a 2-week deferral could be prudent as long as we all come to that meeting, you know, with a pretty firm idea of whether we want to make an amendment, having that ready to go, whether we want to try and extend that to align with ag dedication, you know, just be prepared with whatever direction we want to go and then make that vote at the next meeting in 2 weeks. That sound okay?
Final discussion.
Councilmember Cooley, final discussion.
For my final discussion, I just wanted to thank Councilmember DeCosta for his work and finance for all their work. And I won't repeat all the things that you said, but I will ditto the comments of our chair, committee chair, and I'm ready to support a deferral.
Councilmember Cowden.
I move to defer.
Second?
We will take a roll call vote on the deferral.
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
No.
Councilmember Kuali'i?
Aye.
Committee Chair Epsilon?
Aye.
4 ayes.
The bill is deferred. Clerk, could you please read the next item on our agenda?
Bill number 2846, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 5A Kauai County Code 1987 as amended by repealing Article 10 relating to valuation of wasteland.
Move to approve. Second?
This is the wasteland bill. Councilmember DeCosta, you want to give a?
Yeah, this is real quick. It was just a land banking tool that we thought we did not need. No land is ever wasted here on Kauai. It's set apart, the land, for 5 years where initial developers could sit on it, pay no property tax, and claim the land as wasted. And then when they were ready, they could bring it out and develop it, whether it was swampland or land with a lot of rocks or trees that have to be graded and grubbed. So we felt that this wasn't appropriate in our ag deal.
Any questions for the administration? See none. Anybody here wanting to testify? Anybody on Zoom wanting to testify? All right. Discussion on the bill. I'll go first real quick. You know, I don't really have a strong sense on this bill either way. I don't know if we want to try and defer and keep all three together. There hasn't been much controversy over this one. It hasn't been used in a long time, as you've said. So members, Councilmember Cotton.
Yes, I appreciated the background that real property tax gave us. And, you know, this is an extraordinarily vague ordinance from some time back where it defines wasteland, meaning land which is classified as such by the director. I'm glad that we haven't utilized this and that this is very atypical of how ordinances are written. I'm definitely going to support passing this bill and extinguishing it. There is no land that is under this designation, and it just kind of eliminates a really vague and open-ended, unusual way of being able to get a tax exemption that has potential for abuse in the future. And it's, unlike having an industry that the whole public is reliant on, there's nothing in the pipeline right now. So I think it's a good time as any to clean this up. To me, it's basically a housekeeping issue.
Any further discussion? If not, can we get a roll call vote on the motion?
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuali'i?
Aye.
Committee Chair Epsilon?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Motion is carried. Clerk, could you please read the next item on our agenda?
Bill number 2847, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 5A, Kauai County Code 1987 as amended by repealing Section 5A-1125 relating to orchard development exemption.
Could I get a motion to approve?
It's approved.
Second.
This is the real property tax bill related to the orchard development exemption repeal, introduced by Councilor DaCosta. Councilor DaCosta, you want to give a quick introduction to it again?
Yeah, we went into lengthy discussion on that. This is for parcels of land that has an orchard on that's 50 or plus acres larger. We had one company that had a orchard larger than 50 acres. It was Alexander and Baldwin, back when they had their coffee farm, and it's still in effect today. We have no other companies that have a 50 plus acre orchard in place. And I believe we had a macadamia nut orchard by Alexander Baldwin that got damaged during the hurricane. This would not affect properties that are 49 acres or less that would like to do orchards. Again, we're just trying to bring some parity and equity and fairness across the board for all ag leases. That's it.
Any questions for administration? We'll suspend the rules. Councilor Cowden.
Yes, for real property tax. Just for clarification, Alexander and Baldwin's Kawhi coffee property, that exemption has expired now because those coffee plantation is long since productive and it's just operating in a regular ag dedication. Is that right?
That is correct.
And is there any other existing property right now that is doing this?
That's my knowledge.
Okay, and then I have also reached out to Kauai Coffee, and, they haven't, said it, if we take the tree farm application piece, like if they were opening up a bunch of new acres to be doing some fresh areas of coffee, I know they keep expanding, but do they typically make reapplications on the orchard exemption on different years?
That's my knowledge.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any further questions for Rico folks?
Rico or Mike, can you tell us the length of time that they're exempt from their property taxes in this orchard exemption?
County of Kauai, Mike Hubbard, tax manager for the record. Going by memory, I thought it was something about between 2 or 5 years, but that's by memory. I'd have to read it really quick.
That's correct.
Again, we haven't had one of these for a really long time.
Do you have any more questions, Councilor DaCosta?
No, I just was looking at the equity of those 3 bills that I had introduced. When the orchard has, I believe, I see it now, Mike, the 2-year beyond the normal period of development. I think those grafted trees sometimes take 3 to 5 years, and I think up to 7 years to be in full production. Yet they pay property taxes after the 2nd year. Again, we still let trees for energy go without paying taxes for 25 years. So I wanted to make that point.
Other questions? All right, while the rules are still suspended, is there anybody in the audience wishing to testify? Is there anybody on Zoom? All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. Final discussion here. Councilor Cooley.
Yeah, I'll just say that I have similar feelings with this bill, and in fact, you get 2 for 1 with this. You get trees and you get food. So, and I don't like the idea of just because it hasn't been taken advantage of, we should get rid of it. If you're incentivizing and you're encouraging something and you want it to happen, then you leave the incentive in place. But I get too that no one's used it. It's hard for real property tax to manage. And we are talking about 50 acres or more. When I think about, community nonprofits and neighborhood associations that may want to do a food orchard, it's likely that it'll be less than 50 acres as well. But I do speak up as an advocate for the environment and as an advocate for food orchards and food forests. And I will be a silent vote on this.
Any further discussion? All right, well, actually, sorry, I'll finish. Yeah, I actually feel similar to Councilmember Cooley. I will vote in support with some reservations. It does seem like, if this thing had some part in Kauai Coffee's success, then it was, a successful exemption. And if leaving it on the books enables a future Kauai Coffee to come along one day, that would be a success. It doesn't seem to be costing us anything because nobody's utilizing it. That said, if it hasn't been utilized in 20 plus years, and as we're looking to make ag dedication simpler and more generous, et cetera, then again, I can recognize the value of streamlining processes, giving finance the tools that they need to better do their job on the existing programs that we have. So I will be voting, with reservations, but in support of passage today. Further discussion? Sorry, Councilmember Cotto.
I am in similar position to Luke. I see, it obviously worked back in the day for both the macadamia nut farm and for the coffee farm. I obviously would like it better if we were looking at this at the same time as we're looking at our amendment for ag dedication. But given that there's only one place and it's no longer using it, it's not going to be inconveniencing someone. So I really do want to support our real property tax assessors and work towards simplicity. So I will also be supporting it with reservations, but yeah, I appreciate everything that they've done. And if we can make something simple, and it's not only simple for the real property tax department, but it's simpler for all the people, because when there's just one rule, you just kind of have one path to start looking towards. So that's going to obviously have to be a complex ordinance, the ag dedication. So anyway, I will be supporting it.
Yeah, just after hearing my other council members, rather than a silent vote, I'll say that I'll support with reservations.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, if we get a roll call vote on the motion.
Councilmember Chalk?
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden?
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta?
Aye.
Councilmember Kuali'i?
Aye.
Committee Chair Evslin?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Motion is carried. Seeing no further business, hearing no objections, the Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting is now adjourned.
I'd like to call to order Committee of the Whole. Let the record reflect that all members are present. First item on our agenda is the minutes of the April 6, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting.
Move to approve.
Received no written testimony. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify on this item? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Any questions or discussion on this item? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Bill number 2850, a bill for an ordinance approving a collective bargaining agreement for bargaining unit 1 between July 1st, 2021 and June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Again, members, this bill is related to the cost items for collective bargaining unit 1, which we went over at first reading. Any questions from the members on this item? I'll suspend the rules. Councilmember Cowden?
I certainly have read the material here, and I appreciate the effort that goes in, but if Janine or Annette can give us a basic explanation, I'd like for not only ourselves, but for the public to understand which elements of our employees are being addressed, and yeah, and just, you know, what this means and why we're doing the lump sum.
I don't see Annette on, so I'll go ahead and speak to the issue. Janine Raposo, HR Manager. So during negotiations, UPW did settle originally with a 2-year contract with a reopening on the second year. And so part of the discussion was what kind of settlement we would come to for the second year that we are currently in. And so for the employer side of the house, you know, lump sums are always better because it does not increase the base pay. It's just a one-time cost for us. And so our out-of-pocket may be higher, but the increase to our base is not as large. And so, you know, it goes back and forth as far as if you get a higher lump sum, then the across the board may be moved. And that's why you'll see the across the board is not until October for the next fiscal year. So those are some of the things that go into coming up with some kind of package for each unit as far as how their members want to divvy up kind of the monies.
So I see that it says 3.72% across the board. This would be somewhat through last October. Next year, 5%, and the year after, 5%. So, I mean, that actually, you know, together, almost 14%. That's definitely an increase, though I will notice that, you know, the consumer price index for March was 8.1%. So while in many years I would think that we're being generous, I think this is due. I don't react like this is asking too much given the conditions that we're all facing. Is this like our park workers? This is the people who clean our buildings. This is, can you tell us, these are people who actually go out there and work hard every day? Who is this? I mean, and not that we don't work hard. We're sitting here working with their brains. But I mean, can you tell us who we are rewarding? I don't think this is the high-end paid group.
So this is our blue collar workers, you are correct.
Yes.
It's our park caretakers, it's our laborers, it's our water department workers who go out in the field, our pipe fitters, our wastewater treatment plant people, our bus drivers. Those are all of our blue collar workers that this is part of this unit one.
Yes, okay. So if they're listening, I appreciate all the work that they've done, and really they are important part of our public safety. They are our frontline workers. They take risks. They do some of the most difficult stuff, and I just always have to acknowledge for one of the constituent groups that I seem to have a lot of real estate in my heart, which is those without housing. A lot of these departments are dealing with them very regularly and physically, and so I just want to thank them because I know that they're in the front line of difficult pieces, and I support them getting a raise.
Any further questions from the members? If not, I'll call the meeting back to order. We did receive written testimony on this item. Anyone in the audience wishing to testify? Yep, one person.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so how do you know the rules? Oh, the rules are you have 3 minutes. We'll allow anyone else, if there's anyone else in the room, to go. And then if you need another 3 minutes, you can have another 3 minutes. The light will turn green when your time starts. It'll turn yellow when you have 30 seconds and red when your time is up. And just state your full name for the record and you can begin.
All right. My name is Heidi Schemp, and I just want to quickly testify. I haven't read anything, but I know about lump sums, and I'm usually really against any type of a lump sum increase. So usually what that means is, let's say you go from $10 an hour and you get a raise of $2 an hour as your lump sum. But what that means is that next year when you get another $2 raise, you're going back to $10 an hour. You're not building. So to say 5%, 5%, 5%, it's you're going up 5%, but then you're going back, and then 5% again. It's not a 15% building on your income. So it's almost like locking in someone not getting a raise for, X amount of years. So in general, I don't think a lump sum is ever a good way to go for your employees, because especially with inflation the way it is. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Clarifying question?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this decision, or how do you? I'm kind of intrigued. I'm kind of intrigued by your.
I used to. Well, I still work on call at Macy's, but I've done a lot of work at Macy's in the years past, and so historically, at companies such as that, a lot of times there's like a range of pay for a specific job. So let's just say it's I'll use a county worker, right? A park guy. And so they say, park guys make between this rate and this rate. Just for math, $10 an hour to $20 an hour. And then someone who's been at the company for a really long time, over time they get raises to that $20 an hour. And instead of increasing them past $20 an hour because, they've served their time and have dedicated their life to this job, instead of, just upping the top rate of $20 to maybe $30, instead they'll do like a lump sum increase, which basically means you're never going over that $20 except for this lump sum amount that they're going to give you just for the 1 year. And then every year you got to go back and you're still at your $20 an hour, and you don't build your income from there. It's like you're stuck forever, and it's no fun.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll call this meeting back to order. Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? If not, final discussion from the members. Councilmember Cowden, then Councilmember DeCosta. Oh, you're on mute.
I appreciate our testifier, and she's not looking at the same information that we are. So I'm just wanting quickly from Janine or Annette, just so that clarification, while there is this $1,000 lump sum, that is one of 4 different types of ways that we are compensating our people. So they got the $1,000 as a lump sum, and separately, effective October 1st, 2022, they're going to get a 3.72% salary increase. July 21st, 2023, 5%, and then July 1st, 2024, 5% across the board. So Annette, over those 3 years, let's forget about the 1,000. Am I looking at that correctly? That in 2024, a person working in these job positions would be ahead 13.72% on whatever their base pay was in September of 2022. You would add those 3 numbers together.
So, I'm sorry, I missed the first part. So there's, on October 1st, 2022, there's a 3.72 ATB. Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, so I just was like, our testifier might not have understood. It's not like the only thing that our people are getting is a $1,000 lump sum. They're getting that. But then they have in each year a sequential ATB, which what does ATB stand for? I don't like acronyms.
Across the board on the salary schedule, all the ranges are increased by whatever the agreed to percentage is. So on October 1,
all the salary ranges would increase across the board by 3.72, and then July 1 of 23, there's a 5% across the board increase, and then July 1 of 2024, another 5% increase. And I apologize, I thought we were finished with this item, so I hung up, so I did not hear.
No problem.
The testifier, sorry about that.
Okay, and Janine kind of reviewed it, and the testifier isn't looking at what we're looking at. So actually, there's a compounding in there. So these people are going to get that, and it's like they also got a bonus of $1,000. So, yeah.
The reason for that is because by the time a settlement was reached, the effective date of a 4-year contract, July 1 of 2021, the beginning date had already passed, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
Any further questions from the members? If not, I'll call the meeting back to order. Any final discussion from the members? Okay, well, I just want to say, I'm in favor of the collective bargaining agreement. I'm in favor of the increases. I know the increases are actually going to end up higher than what you add up to. I mean, it's going to be higher than 13.72% of their base pay because there is a compounding effect to it. And, I mean, these are, our blue collar workers. And, a lot of times in the past we would have, kind of what the different steps are and what their rates are. And, these aren't the top tier of our salaries at the county. And, with rising costs, rising medical costs, these increases are definitely needed for these type of workers. So with that, so I'm in favor of this. Any further discussion from the members? If not, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Carvalho.
Aye.
Councilmember Chalk.
Aye.
Councilmember Cowden. Councilmember Cowden.
You're on mute.
Aye.
Councilmember DeCosta.
Aye.
Councilmember Evslin.
Aye.
Councilmember Kuali'i.
Aye.
Council Chair Kanashiro.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Motion passes. Seeing no further business and hearing no objections, the committee of the whole is now adjourned. That will conclude our meetings for today. We do have an executive session after this. Mics.